YouTube! Good morning, how are you? Now listen, are you a parent of a wonderful little blessing? And has that little cherub decided that they want to be a gamer?
Is that beautiful little cherub of yours asked for a gaming PC for Christmas? Have I got the perfect answer for you? But first,
This video has been brought to you in part by plug-in air fresheners. Because gamers don't compromise.
Welcomes guys, welcomes to TPB's Tech-Bodge Emporium. So, your little blessing is a gamer here. And he wants a gaming PC, he, she, whatever, wants a gaming PC for Christmas. Right, well, I can basically make you overnight the best frigging parent ever to these guys. Plus, on top of that, you will give them a level of achievement. They get to learn how to be careful with things, and yeah, they should have fun throwing it all together. And this way, you literally get to save money. And I've tried to structure it in a way that will allow you guys to just quite easily just use these blueprints and hit these sort of price points with decent enough hardware. I'm like trying to lay it out in a way where you're going to be able to mostly sort of like one click in. So I'll show you what I mean when we get over there. But if you stick with me, I'm going to give you in my eyes, the best price to performance and also a level of future proofing, a level of future upgrade, a level of thinking ahead. I'll explain that when we get into it. But basically we're going to be hitting a good jump of price points on our way from like $550 as the base PC, and then we'll hit all the way up to 1,000. And when we hit 1,000, I'm going to be a little bit controversial, but when we get there, I'll explain what I mean. But then it'll be completely up to you. But I have hit these price points, and you know, you're getting performance well above where you should be at that price point. So what I'm trying to do is give you the best option. If you're in the UK for a PC for Christmas for someone, I mean, not only do you give them what they've asked for as a PC, they would develop they will get a feeling of achievement once they've thrown it all together. You also get multiple gifts to be able to wrap for them, so it looks a bit more impressive on Christmas Day without having to delve too deep into other areas and stuff. So it all sort of helps all round. Plus you've got a chance at like the £1,000 end, you're looking at saving like 300-400 quid, and even down at the very bottom end at that 550, you're getting performance that's sort of like you shouldn't be getting for that money, you know. You know, you're probably saving a couple of hundred quid at the bottom end, 300-400 quid at the top end. Obviously, as things get more expensive, it gets more expensive. But that being said, should we hop on and I'll show you what I'm waffling about. Yeah.
So let me just quickly go through these base lists quickly. I noticed I did not do that in the video. Sorry, no, this is in time. This is not the next morning. No, I didn't forget to put this in the video. No. Right, anyway, let me go. This video is way too long as it is. Let me just quickly go through this. And whilst I'm there, I'll explain a couple of things. Firstly, before we do go into this, I just want to explain a couple of things. There are some 6,000 AMD GPUs available in and around these price points, but the cards that I've chosen, there isn't a better option at its price point than itself. And unfortunately, because of the way the games are moving this at the moment, certainly in sort of like RT and Lumen and stuff, for me, I feel like unless it's just purely just esports, just that, you're never going to think of needing to do big future AAA games and stuff. Yeah, okay, 6,000 and below maybe. I wouldn't touch 5,000 series with a barge pole, but that's me. I'm not saying that necessarily, no, I am saying the bad GPUs. I mean, a 5700X T is slower than a 3060 12 gig, you know. It's around about the same sort of performance as 2070, but all of the cards on this list can handle a little bit of Lumen and a little bit of RT. You can have fun with them for the next couple of years. And like I said, the reason I've gone with the platform is because I'm saving money. But that being said, I'm going to go through the motherboard in the video, but basically the 500, if you're on the 550 to 600 pound build, you want to be using this base. Like I said, I'll list them all down below. It's got a Thermalright Assassin that should be able to cool anything up to a 12600 KF, no problem. Obviously the motherboard, I've gone with this motherboard because it's got 4 M.2 supports. The RAM, right, it's a single stick, yes, but you need to understand that DDR5 has double the bandwidth of DDR4, which means in that lane, that one lane on DDR5, you could essentially fit 2 sticks of DDR4 through that same throughput. So it has the same sort of bandwidth, and also with it being a 16 gig stick, it's dual rank on the stick, so it kind of has 2 banks of, it's almost like having 2 sticks in the one slot. So, and also, you know, this is 66 quid. Well, it's like 80 odd quid for 2 8 gig sticks of the same RAM. Like, that was the cheapest option. It was like 80 odd quid for 2 8 gig sticks. So if you get this one 16 gig stick, the next time you've got 65 quid, you just throw another one in, and now you've got a 32 gig kit that's 2 sticks, which is, with DDR5, that's where you want to be. It's still early days for it. I would rather be on 2 sticks than 4 on DDR5, especially if you're going to take that RAM over to AMD, because AMD definitely prefers 2 sticks. Going down, we've got I use Crucial. We're on a 500 gig right this minute. This is more to hit the price points, to be honest. I feel like that's not bad as a boot drive. 500 gig isn't a bad boot drive anyway. So when you get a chance, you got 60 quid, you can throw a 1 terabyte in here and just use the 1 terabyte as game storage, so that the boot drive can just be a boot drive. And then, but you've got four slot spaces in this motherboard, so you've got room for that and for future again. The case is pretty simple. It's like 50 quid. That's literally why I chose it. But it's also got 420 mils for the video card. Now, I think the biggest video card at the moment, which is like the Astral 5090, I think it's only like 358 or 360 odd millimeters long. So you've still got a good gap in it. Basically, you could put an Astral in there and it wouldn't look necessarily huge. It's going to look huge, but you know what I mean. You'd fit it. And the power supply is just cheap. It's cheap, it's bronze rated, and it was a 700 watt power supply. At this point, the options were this 700 watt or like 550s and 600s with the same ratings, and I was like, well, if you're gonna take a little bit of ropiness on the power supply, you may as well have a bigger power supply, so it doesn't get so stressed because you're well and within its budget. The £670 base just ups the VRAM, ups the memory to 2 sticks of DDR5. So you got 32 gig, you got the full kit there. Instead of having half the kit, you've got the full kit there now. Everything else is basically the same. The 705 build, this is basically sort of like, I would say this is more the sort of recommended point. Like, this is a killer rig. The 700, I think it says 705 there, but I had to change the the RAM, you'll see in the video, it just disappears at one point when it completely sells out. So I've swapped out for a different kit there. Again, on this motherboard, right, I need you to understand that the AMD equivalent to this board, the exact same board, it's a B650 Pro RS, the exact same board's got one less M.2 slot, and the exact same board is 140 quid. So you add in 30 to 40 quid over on this side for the same board. Yes, you could get it a little bit cheaper, but the cheapest I could get it was still 10-20 quid more expensive than this motherboard. For the similar equivalent, doesn't matter brand or whatever, I was trying to match them, but yeah, they're about 130 quid for the same sort of equivalent, and usually 3 M.2 slots, not the 4 that are on this board. But that's why I've gone with this board, and that's another reason. You see, the thing is, because 13th and 14th gen got such a bad rap because of the degradation issues, 12th gen doesn't have any of that degradation issues. But the other two CPU generations on the socket, they do. So the platform has had an impact from that bad press, basically. So the prices have dropped on this platform, but 12th gen's just sat there going, hey yo, we're just getting cheaper, bro. There ain't nothing wrong with us. That's why 12th gen is such a good price at the minute, and it allows you to have that DDR5 to move forward. So I'm on a 12900KS, right? I'm at the best that this platform has. That's not why I'm recommending it. I'm recommending it because of the price point. But from that 12900KS, I see no viable upgrade past going AM5 with an X3D chip. So honestly, all Team Red fans watching right now, just put down the torch and pitchforks. I want AM5 eventually, but this is to hit this budget mark. And if you turn around and tell me, oh, you still got AM4, you can put an X3D chip on AM4. The X3D chips on AM4 are the same freaking money as the X3D chips on AM5. They come out, they have a small quantity because there's only so many slightly sketchy X3D dies that haven't quite made the cut that they can throw onto those CPUs for you. So there's always a limited supply, and as soon as they're sold at a somewhat reasonable price, but you're still stuck on older platform. And DDR4 might not be a big issue right now, just like DDR3 wasn't a big issue back then, but it's a bit more of an issue now, and DDR4 will be an issue in the future. Whereas in a couple of years time, when you want to upgrade and you want to go AM5 or something, you can literally just swap out the motherboard and the CPU on this rig. That's it. Everything else will come with you, and you get a sizable chunk, and you've got an older X3D chip for cheap, because obviously they're a couple of generations past now, but they're absolutely friggin' awesome, so why not? Everything will be cheaper when you want to upgrade it. This is the meta, innit? And we're staying in this, to stay in this price point, that is what we've got to do. And 12th gen is perfect. It kind of eradicates anything on AM4, because there isn't anything on AM4 that can beat the best that 12th gen has to offer. So you could be like, X3D chip, yeah, but the X3D chip is like 300 odd quid. A 12900KS in the same form that we're buying this stuff is like 230 quid. So the arguments could just keep going round and round. Like, yes, Intel is power hungry. No, it's not the most efficient, but fuck me is it fast when they want to be. And this is the best. This is the best that Intel have offered for years. 12th gen is just, it's just great for this price point. Anyway, that's the 705 build. 755 build just that gives you, I think I upped. Oh no, there's a cooler on it. There's a cooler. So we're stepping up to this Thermalright Aqua Elite. I've seen a couple of a few videos on this CPU cooler. It seems okay. It seems pretty solid, and it's 40 quid. You can't complain. So this is gonna basically be the base following forwards. You see, we're still on that 700 watt power supply because we've not needed to upgrade it yet. This is storage, so that steps a boot drive up to a 2 terabyte because it was the cheapest way to do it. And then when you have that little extra buffer, that extra 50-60 quid buffer, then throw in a 1 terabyte drive, make that your boot drive, make this your game drive. Everything else is basically the same right now. And then when we step up to the 900 rig, we knock off that extra storage that we threw on there because we need the money for a freaking GPU. And we've also stepped the power supply up to this MSI Mag 850. It's a Gold Plus, so it's a much better power supply in itself. It's 850 watts, so it should be able to handle stuff. And also it's PCIe Gen 5, so I'm guessing it's got a dedicated 12 volt high power. So it's just all in all worth putting the money into it for that. That is why I've made the decisions that I've made. This video is so freaking long. Everything that I've had to do for this video has taken forever, so it's gonna be choppy and edited. But I hope you enjoy the video, and I don't hate Team Red. There's just nothing better in its price point. I don't know what to tell you. Like, the thing is, AMD's pricing is fucked at the minute. And yes, I know that this is more of a bougie way to buy second-hand GPUs and CPUs and stuff. You could easily knock, another 20-30 quid off by going different routes to get your parts. But the fact of the matter is, I'm trying to give you, these lists here are all new parts, so they all come with their brand new parts, warranties and stuff, right? And the CEX stuff comes with 5 years of warranty. I'm trying to give the buyer a peace of mind that it's possible to buy some stuff secondhand, the stuff that saves you the money by buying secondhand, and still being safe in terms of warranties. So these are the lists. Oh my god, this video is so long. You are a saint if you make it to the end. Oh, one last thing. I did forget this. Before you venture down this route, there is one other thing. You do get to teach them stuff as well. They have to learn something. That's completely on you though. There is one thing that you will need to do. You will need to take this drive and you will need to put a Windows boot media on there. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that are going to do a far better job than me in explaining how to do that, and aren't going to take 6 weeks in which to do that. But I will try and do a short little video on a quick, because I want to refresh mine, so I may as well take you guys along with it, on how to make the Windows boot media and get it onto the drive. You don't necessarily have to pay for Windows for it to run. It will run. You just don't get any customizations in the Windows itself, and it has a big dirty like watermark here that just says activate your Windows license, just here, always, at all times. However, you can literally get a Windows license for like 20 quid. They're like one-use licenses. I don't know, but it works, and I've been using. I have one genuine license, and I have one CD key license. Oh my god, my hair's a mess. Why did I make this box so big? Look, who cares? I'm an old man. I'm not here to impress people with my rugged good looks. But yeah, you will have to set up a Windows. You just need to get the Windows boot media onto here. But to be fair, PCs these days pretty much try and hold your hand through the whole thing anyway. But the easiest way to do it is to get like a little flash drive. I think it only needs to be like 6 or 8 gigs, and seeing as like the smallest ones are like 32 gigs, you're kind of fine. You can get anything. You will need to put Windows Media onto the boot drive so that it'll boot up. But I'm pretty sure most setups these days, most PCs these days, almost try to hold your hand in it, and I think most BIOSes try and sort of like prompt. We can just grab you some Windows if you want to hook us up, kind of thing. But the easiest way to do it is to go onto Windows website. If you just literally Google Windows bootable media, and it'll ask you to get one of these, plug it into the computer, and it'll ask you to tell them where it is, and they'll just go wipe this, just spaff their Windows media all over it, and then you just go and plug that into the motherboard. What you do want to do is when you tell your kid or whoever's getting it, if they're not sure, but I'm telling you now what you want to do. You want to make sure, like, obviously with this setup it won't matter because you've only got one storage device anyway, but if you were like building a PC, when you put this on, you want to make sure that the only storage device that is connected to the PC is the drive that you want the boot drive on, and this, nothing else. Because if there's anything else, in the process of Windows spaffing itself onto your SSD, it's going to spaff all over the other storage drives at the same time, and then there'll be some weird thing where it won't work unless you have all of them connected at all times. Just dumb. So yeah, always make sure only your boot drive, only the drive you want as a boot drive, goes on the computer. Right, as I said, I have tried my best, my very best for you guys, to try and make this as easy as possible to follow, but also give you that sort of security, because obviously with you know, new products, you've got that security of warranties and stuff like that. Well, for me, this is the best way to do what I'm about to do. I'm going to try and explain as quickly as possible, but to try and not make this video as huge as possible, I'm going to have to sort of like run through things quite quickly. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to get some hate because obviously Team Red can't possibly see anything good from Team Blue, and unfortunately 12th gen Intel is just mind-boggling for this price point. So what I've done is I've configured a load of bases, which I will link down below, for each of these bases for these price points. I will link them down below, and then you can literally, you should be able to hit the link, it'll take you straight to there, and you should be able to just click buy, and it'll take you to the website that's got the cheapest option of that product ready to go. That should have it ready to go. You should be able to just come in here and click these. I'm not 100% sure, but possibly. You got buy from Amazon, so most of it's in there. Anyway, so this is the main base. As you can see, the GPU and the CPU have been left out. Now I just want to quickly go over a couple of things. Firstly, 12th gen Intel. This motherboard is going to carry us through literally the entire of these builds, but 12th gen Intel, let me just point out a few things. Firstly, we'll just have a look at a couple of things. Right, so the 7600X is a wicked little gaming CPU. 12600KF, as you can see here, is practically identical. In those games that prefer clock speed over multiple cores, those games are going to show a slight improvement of about 5% for the 7600X. But in any game that includes a multi-core, then those games are going to basically show, they're going to look identical. The same goes for a 12700K KF here at the minute, and a 7700X. Single core performance, the 7700X has got better core clocks, it can push a bit harder, so in those scenarios it's going to work better. But in any multi-core scenario where a game prefers having multiple cores and stuff, that 12700KF, because of those little help me cores, those little 4 little help me cores in the background, they're going to just assist, just like straight assist that. So they give like a little edge, but it's like 1-2 FPS. So any multi-core scenario, these CPUs are going to perform almost identical, and any single core scenario that prefers a boost clock, doesn't have to necessarily be a single core scenario, but if it prefers those clock speeds, it's going to show a lead for the 7700X. But this video just quickly is just to demonstrate that point, right? I'm going to be completely like, I'm just going to snap the middle of each of these sections because they've got average frame rates up. So it's obviously Cyberpunk. This game prefers the 12700K. This game prefers multi-core. So that tiny little percentage increase on the multi-core, that is showing here. Next game, Death Stranded. It's a PlayStation game, so it prefers AMD architecture anyway. But this game prefers that clock speed. So you're seeing that sort of 5 to 10% increase from the 7700X that we see in here. Because people moan about me using stuff like this, but this is just showing what, like 7% increase here to the 7700X, and the freaking games are showing it. So why, I don't understand why it's a problem that I look at those sort of things, but never mind. Here again, prefers the single core, so you're getting an extra few FPS. But what I'm saying is, it costs an extra £70-ish to get the exact same motherboard from but AMD. They literally make the exact same motherboard, but AMD, the ASRock Pro RS. They make the exact same motherboard, but AMD. The only thing you might get is M.2 support, being PCIe Gen 5. But that doesn't really make any impact in gaming anyway. And the fact of the matter is, with 12th gen, you have that future. Because, and with this motherboard, it's got 4 M.2 slots. 4 of them. They're all Gen 4. Your GPU slot is still a PCIe Gen 5 16X. So it's literally the same slot that you get over on AM5. It's got DDR5. Literally, this motherboard here is as up to date as this socket got. And it's not far off pretty much as up to date as motherboards get. Basically, if you get the Z variant, the expensive version of this socket board, you get that PCIe Gen 5 M.2 support. You just don't get it on the slightly cheaper board. It's not important. That's why I've used this board, because of literally everything that it supports. And you know, it's got everything that you need it to have. It's got decent enough I/O at the back, and you know, it's clean enough, and it's got, like I said, the important thing is the M.2 slots for me. So that's why I've gone with this board, that's why I've gone with this platform. So we're going to use this 50/50 as a base for like where things are showing up, so you kind of understand what you're buying into. We'll start off with the 550 pound build. Like literally, you should be able to click the link below for this one, custom vid 550-60 base. I will literally label it like that in the description. You should be able to click this. It'll take you to this list. You should be able to buy, and then if you go into CEX, this is the first option, which is a 12500T and a 2070 8GB. Now, I wouldn't necessarily usually recommend the 12500T. I use one but it's for my editing rig. It's for my capture rig. It doesn't need to be super strenuous, but it does. It is the lowest CPU on Intel with their best integrated graphics from this socket, the UHD 770. It's the lowest power draw chip that does it. The only issue it has, it's basically going to perform very, very closely to 12400F, especially in sort of single core or scenarios. It will perform very closely to that, but unfortunately it is locked out to I think 75 watts with the GPU at full tilt, as the iGPU at full tilt as well. So it's really a 60-65 watt CPU. Whereas like a 12400F, you can push it up to like 115, 125 or something, which allows you to do that multi-core for longer. But it's more than capable of gaming. It's more than capable of a 2070. And this literal setup here, if your kid plays Fortnite, CS:GO, games like Rainbow Six, any of those sort of esports games, and also there is so many games that this system will play, even console games. You can get away with some Call of Duty and stuff on this with the right settings set up. But like if they play Fortnite and stuff, this is going to give you a high refresh rate gaming scenario in Fortnite. No doubt you'll be able to get that. That's not an issue. But this does literally give you it. I think collectively, this here with this together is £549.46. So going from the 550 quid build, we're going to have a quick pit stop at £579.44. That is leaving all of this the same, and all we're doing is we're swapping that 12500T for a 12400F, so we get that more boost in. It can handle the card a bit better, and then we're going to hit that 2080. Now quickly jump over to here, because obviously we've got that 50-50 mark. Now, so you know, the 2070 which I offered is 82% there, and there is no Team Red card at the £155 mark with a 5-year warranty that is available. Because don't forget, the reason I use CEX is because it's got a 5-year warranty. The other advantage is if you've got some tech or hardware, either be it audio equipment, camera equipment, monitors, screens, TVs, anything gaming related, even DVDs and stuff, like, take it down there. You might be able to get a credit note and get it knocked off something, and then you'll be able to put that against this. But 2070, we're about 18% slower than a 50-50, but that card is £155 with a 5-year warranty. That's insane. So stepping up now with that 12400F and 2080, as you can see here, we are basically bang on 50-50 mark, and that's for £579.46. The 600 mark, this is what I would do. I would just literally switch up the GPU, because this is an absolute friggin' banging deal for 195 quid. A 3060 Ti. Now, there are some that are 190 quid on the site. There are some that are 200, 210. I would stay in that sort of bracket. I wouldn't go over 210, because you will see why in a minute. But for 195 quid, 3060 Ti is such a good offer, and this puts the price at £599.46 to 670 quid now. And to do that, we are keeping the 3060 Ti. We're switching out that 12400F for a 12600 KF, 120 quid. Absolute friggin' bargain. Our 3060 Ti over on the build side, all we're really changing out is we've got 32 gigs of DDR5 in there now instead of the 16 gigs. So we just put a 32 gig kit in, and we've got a 12600 KF. It actually comes out at £672.56. Next up, over here, we have literally stepped up the storage to 1 terabyte now. That's really all we've done over on the storage side. We've got that 32 gigs in there, and we've just stepped it up to 1 terabyte on the storage, which is just going to make it just a little bit nicer. We'll get a couple more games on, and then also at the same time, we are stepping up from that 3060 Ti to a 3070 for £210. Let me allow that to sink in. There are multiple 3070s on CEX for £210 with a 5-year warranty, right? They are basically, you should be able to find a card between like 210 and 220, but there are a couple for 210. There are a couple in each one of those, so I considered there was like 5 cards available at 210, so I was like, all right, okay, 210, right? I will say, however, right, this is a little brief shout out moment. There is one abnormal priced 3070 Ti. Yes, a 3070 Ti. Most of the cards in here for 3070 Ti's are like 290 quid, and for me that step up, you'll see why, but that step up just isn't worth it. But that one 3070 Ti for £225 is friggin' insane. So if you're the lucky one that manages to pull that off, I will say it doesn't have an image and it's a PNY card. That's all the information I'm giving you. Happy hunting, people. Happy hunting. Right, anyway, 225 quid for a 3070 Ti. I'm letting you know that it was only one and it's probably a mistake. I would... look, someone's getting lucky. Some motherfucker is getting fucking lucky. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah. I'm telling you, go 3070 because I think at 210 quid is friggin' insane. Let me just bring that into perspective. I didn't even bring in the 3060 Ti into perspective. Now, the 3060 Ti is 14% faster than the 5050, and that thing was 195 quid. Right? The 3070 is 30% faster than a 5050, and it is still like 20-30 quid cheaper than a 5050. So you more for less. They're both on 8 gigs anyway. You don't get MFG, but it's a much stronger card, so does it really matter? And yeah, so this was £706.58 for this build. Next up, we've got £755. So over on £755, we have stepped up to the Thermalright Aqua Elite. I've seen a couple of videos on it. Seems to be a decent enough cooler, and it's only 40 quid. Well, it's under 40 quid, and it should be able to cool our next CPU, which is for me the absolute star in CEX. For some reason, they've got a few of them. It's £145, man. It's £145. For context, its competitor, that 7700X that I showed you, they're almost identical. New, that thing's like what, 210, 220? Second hand in here, that thing is 180 quid. 180 quid. You've seen how close these two CPUs are. Which one do you reckon's the better deal? Which one do you reckon offers the better value? It's this one, isn't it? 145 quid for a 12700 KF, yeah, is mind-boggling. So this is obviously going to be the CPU that I recommend. So for that £755, it works out as £755. At £800, we're still on the 3070 and the 12700 KF. We're just up in the storage, so you got 2 terabytes of storage on there instead, and that's just upped it 100 quid basically. Just jumps, well, no, 50 quid, added 50 quid, just doubling the storage. So we've stepped that up to a 2 terabyte. It's super handy. Step it up to 850. This is me just basically saying that between 750 and like 900 quid, these sort of upgrades are going to be like niceties. What I've just done is just added more storage at these price points, but it's kind of me just sort of trying to say this is where your aesthetic money comes in, because there's not that much performance achievement in GPU and CPU here in this gap, so you may as well make things prettier with this money. if you're going to spend this money. So this is probably the final of the base. 800 is probably just more than ideal at this build, but that 850 is if you want to be a bit bougie. You put your boot drive on this one and you put all your game drives on this one, and it's freaking awesome. But this works out with the RAM. Don't worry, I have these all pre-priced. They're all listed here. I have to keep going back to them. They're underneath my face. Would you like me to prove it? They're right here. Right. They're hiding below me. Right, so yeah, so that is the 850 quid build. It's just literally adding an extra 1 terabyte. So you got 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte, and then you do it with a 3070 and a 12700 KF. Remember, this is 30% faster than a 5050, and we're just about around about the price you're going to see builds with a 5050 in. That's the crazy bit. Like, we're literally at a point where the sort of price point, and we'd be rocking way above 30%. We were 30% on the GPU, like, but the CPU's far stronger than anything that you would necessarily expect to see in a 5050 build. Anyways, £900, one of the very best cards on the market. And again, I've said this, I've looked, and there is nothing close. There is nothing close. Right, the best cards, the best card I've seen from Team Red in CEX is a 7700X, which is 335 quid. I can explain why that's kind of pointless. It wasn't worth the money, basically, but this 3080 is, like, all day long. Like, the thing is, yeah, you could turn around and be, oh, you should just buy a 9060 XT once you got to that point. There's 310 quid, right? 3080 is here, right? So your 9060 XT is 15% slower. Yes, it's got more VRAM, but it's 15% slower. A 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte, which is a little bit faster, is still 10% slower than this card. And this card is £310, readily available. In fact, if you can't find one at 310, there's a good few at 315. There's also a good few at 320, 325, but I feel like at that point, that's kind of like the cap of it. But for 310 quid with a 5-year warranty is insane. So, like I said, I will alter the memory on the RAM sticks on here so that you've got something that you can click to before I upload this. But this is what I recommend. Realistically, you're going to struggle to beat this. Like, honestly, like, genuinely, in all honesty, because if you think about what you're working around, right, in all honesty, you're going to struggle to build anything. Like, this is going to be faster than a 5060 Ti build. Without a MFG, this is going to be faster than that build. Right? If there's any sort of overhead that the 3080 is struggling with that the 5060 Ti doesn't, because it has better tensor cores, that 10% is going to just literally sort of buffer itself. So while you're using like the newer technologies like DLSS 4 or something, you might have like a 5% impact because of that. You're still going to be faster than the 5060 Ti until that VRAM is full. And you can always adjust game and textures so that VRAM doesn't get filled. It's not that hard. And it's crazy for me to say this because this is a 3080, but will literally be a 1080p beast for the next few years. So if you got your kid this rig for 850 quid, it's only got a 1 terabyte storage, but that was so that you could get a 3080. Stop complaining, right? If you get your kid this rig with a 3080 and a 12700 KF, yeah, they don't need to upgrade anything. And you put them on a 1080p screen, they don't need to upgrade anything for a good few years. You could be giving them a 1440p screen, to be honest. 3080 is like a mid-range 40p card. But that 10 gig VRAM is going to be ideal for like 1080p gaming for the next few years anyway. Like, even in the most intensive spots, that 10 gig will be fine at 1080. it'll be mostly okay at 1440p, and the card is fast enough to push sort of mid-range 1440p. So the 3080 is an absolute friggin' bargain at 310 quid, 315 quid, 330 quid. This is why as well I said that 7700X, it just falls short, because it was 400 odd quid, yeah, because the next step, the final stage, £1,000 build, £1,000 build. Now this does come in under £1,000. Just double check, yeah, the VROM. So this build does come in under £1,000. It is almost exactly £1,000. Before the VROM issue here, it was £997.56. So once I've done that, there'll be an extra £5 on there maybe. So call it 1,000, right? But for £1,000, you've got a 3080 Ti, and a 3080 Ti is almost identical. We'll click it. It's almost identical to a 5070, and that's kind of nuts for that sort of money. However, I will say that this is the only card that has a question attached to it, whether it's worth it. 3080 Ti is almost identical to a 5070, and having that 3080 Ti be available, there's a few at that price. Having that available to be able to put into this to give you £1,000 rig, to me, that's worth it in itself. However, my only problem is that a 5070 is only £50 more expensive, and for one of these two, not this one would be £40 more expensive, but one of these two, £50 more expensive. And yeah, raw performance, you're not really gaining much extra, but it does have better RT cores. They're newer, they're a couple of generations newer, technology moves on. The tensor cores are also more complex, they're a lot newer, and they're a lot easier to run the other stuff. And basically it would put you in a system that is, high flying, well ahead of itself. But we're still also at £1,000, and for me to sort of put the context across, as I have told you before, the 12700K that's in this is almost identical to a 7700X. You can see the same here, and then I've also told you that the 3080 Ti is almost identical to a 5070. So it's fair to say that this gives the same sort of performance as a 7700X and a 5070 in a pre-built. It's fair to say that you would get the same performance out of this as you would a 5070 with a 7700X. If you leave MFG out of the chat, if you leave multi-frame gen out of the chat, it's fair to say that that is what you would get from this build. Now, to put into context, this would cost you £1,000 to build. They would have a great time. They would get to build their PC. They're going to feel a closer achievement. They're going to feel a little bit less worried about doing stuff like upgrades and that. They're going to feel more confident about that kind of thing, and they're going to feel a little bit closer to their PC. So how that is a bad thing? Plus, you get more gifts to wrap. So how is that not a bad thing? And it's all in one gift. So to me, they're so close in performance, it doesn't matter. So it's fair enough to say that a 7700X and a 5070 PC is a good benchmark, right? Now this here, this is a 5070 and a 7700, which is what some people would be like, well, it's not an X, it's more closer to a 7700. They're like 5% between them. So this here, $1,375 with 3-year warranty on parts. Now it's fair to say that the two important parts in your PC, the GPU and the CPU, have actually got better warranties than this website is offering. Doesn't offer the labour, but your kid's already built his PC. He's going to want to labour on it himself. It's just how or herself. just how it works. So the two most important things in the build have actually got a better warranty than this site is offering. And then this is the same case as well, by the way. Like, it's just white. It's the exact same case. The other site is PC Specialists. They're a little bit more bougie. They are a little bit more bougie, but they allow you to spec a PC, and I've tried to spec this PC as close to this spec, the 900 to 1000 build, as close to that as I can get. The closest case I could find is this, and it's almost to say they're identical money in case, so don't feel like I'm like being obtruse there. So very, very similar case. We've gone with a 7700X because that's way more popular than 12900K, 12700KF. So we've put the 7700X in there. This motherboard, the B850, is basically the B760 of AMD. So they're basically same generation of motherboard, different manufacturers, but I've tried to keep up. This only has 3 M.2 slots instead of the 4, but it's as close as I could get it out of the choices that they list here. It's also probably the cheapest one of the B boards anyway. I've given it 32 gigs of 6000 CL30, which is kind of what I would aim for anyway. These just had really good speeds and they were really cheap, so I threw them in there, but I will replace them with a different kit, I promise, before I upload. And a 5070. Also, I gave it a 1TB P310. It's the exact same drive that I'm using here. So I've given it one of them, and I gave it an 850 watt power supply because that's what's on here, and I gave it a 240 mil AIO. Right. So everything is basically the same. That's what I was aiming for. And in PC Specialists, admittedly, they're a little bit more bougie. But before VAT, they're asking for almost 1400 quid. And after it, they're asking for almost 1700 quid. That's 1660 quid. And my build gives you almost the exact same freaking performance for £1,000. So that is my recommendations to make your gaming gem of an offspring. Just think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and allow you to save yourself a few hundred quid safely. And again, like I said, at this end, at that £1,000 mark, me personally, I would probably lean more towards paying the extra 50 quid and getting the 5070, just because of that slightly better on the future proofness. But again, as I said, this platform holds everything that AMD's AM5 platform does. There's nothing that's on this motherboard that is behind. The only reason people consider this platform dead is because no more CPUs are coming to it. It still swings at the top of the boards unless you look at the X3D chips in game. It's just a really solid platform, and yeah, this is my recommendation. 12th gen Intel, don't sleep on it. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is going to be a friggin' nightmare to trim down a little bit. You can check any product in stock of what they've got, and they've got quite a few of them. Like 8 or something. There's quite a few of them. I don't have a huge amount of viewers, but hopefully this helps someone. So again, like I said, I will leave a link to all of these PC part picker lists in the description down below, and you will have to go search CEX for the GPU and CPU. It's not difficult to search. What I would do for the Intel is I would literally just write Intel, and then after it just write 12, and then it'll come up, and you just choose CPU processors, Intel processors in the listing thing, and it'll just show you all of the 12th gen first, and then maybe wheedle in a few extras afterwards. But you'll be able to find the CPUs pretty easily. For the GPUs, what I would do is just type GPU in this here, and then when it has the drop downs show up, one of them will say PCIe graphics card processor, whatever. Click that, and then underneath just go to the sort of price that you know it's roughly around. Have that as your lowest price. Click that, and then just go low to high, and it's the easiest way to get to those cards. But yeah, this is my recommendations, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you, bye.
Like and subscribe. Thank you.